Welcome, everybody, to Discussing Depression with Casey Moran. I am Casey Moran. Got a very special episode. Somebody that we've been trying to have on this show for a while, and it's one of those things where I record from Simi Valley in studio, and I don't have travel equipment yet. So every time that one of my comedian friends from Los Angeles wants to do the show, I have to be like, okay, well, it needs to work in the schedule in terms of not having, traffic or all that. And I want it to just we have enough time to get a good conversation going. And so months and months went by till I finally got this guest. So I'm really excited. He's a comedian from Detroit, Michigan. He's done Mark Maron's podcast, WTF, among many other things. And he's one of my best friends in comedy. So please welcome to Discussing Depression, Mike Bobbitt.
You make it sound like I wasn't prepared to. I sat in traffic for an hour and a half today.
You sure did.
I would have come out at any time.
You don't know how much
you, Casey.
No, that's what I said. I said it's my fault. But the main thing is I love you so much that I didn't want to put you in any in any weird, because some people were like, "Oh, can you do it in LA?" And I was like, "I just need the equipment. I don't want to do it on anybody else's." This is
it's not a competition, but did Ryan Buds come to our place? Yes, he did. But, Ryan is, just
Ryan
a little
Buds,
bit,
fair enough.
More flexible.
Buds he's also has the travel equipment and a bunch of things that you can do trivia all over. He has enough setups to do trivia in 10 places.
Yeah.
I love Ryan Buds. Yeah. And he's supposed to do this too.
I figured because you always tell me that he gives me shout-outs on shows that I need to give him a shout-out to.
Yeah, it's perfect. And Ryan's a great stand-up from Chicago and just a good guy.
Every time I see like someone hosting a thing, like a talk show or a game show, I'm always like that should just be Ryan. Like Ryan should be like the most famous person we know.
If Chris Hardwick can get back to hosting after doing Singled Out, taking 15 years from hosting and doing At Midnight, why can't Ryan Buds have a show like that? Because he's such a good host. And
he's so like naturally funny and people person funny.
I had him on a show the other night, and the host didn't know his name because I put him on last. I put it last second, but I told him who his name was, and he paused on his name. So Ryan goes, "That's okay, I didn't know your name either." And then at the end, he's like, "Yeah, give it up for this guy." And and it's like Kyle Clark, everybody was laughing. Yeah. I guess I'll give a background. Well, the other thing is you made it clear, because I could do, through this great setup that Jay has for this studio, I can do any interview through the phone. Just hook up this cord, easy. The problem with this podcast is it's not just like a comedy podcast. It's about a subject that's near and dear to my heart. It's serious, and I think like you told me, you need offered to be in studio.
Yeah, you offered to do this over the phone, and I thought, because this is such a personal topic, and I think such a good service that you provide too.
Thank you.
That I felt we would have much more of a genuine conversation if we were in the same room, where I know the way my defense mechanisms work, as they already have in the first, 3.5 minutes of this, is that I'm going to deflect.
Sure.
And
that's a conversation, though.
And I'm going to make jokes, and I would definitely be more apt to do that in the comfort zone of my home.
Right. And it's going to sound more natural. I've had some good interviews over the phone, Gina Grad, Jonathan Lipnicki, a couple others, but for this one, it makes perfect sense. I'll give a little bit of background to the listeners of how we know each other, and then we'll kind of just go into a good conversation about, what this podcast is about. I did Andrew Berkovich's show, Ventura Harbor, because I would grab tickets from him, and I would go around Ventura and pass them out, and then he would put me on. And that was my first real book show. Both of his shows, at the Rack and then that one. And I did the Rack, and then I did Ventura Harbor a little bit after. I was nervous, but I had friends in Ventura, and they showed up. And I did fine on stage, looking back. But I remember getting off, and I always have to go outside. And you had just killed, because I went on later. And you were out with, who's one of my favorite people, even though I met him twice, DJ Dangler. You guys were just hanging out.
Yeah, DJ's my writing partner and one of the funniest people I know.
Yeah.
And
talk about somebody that should get something, just for being them, like Ryan Buds.
Yeah.
DJ's got that.
Yeah, DJ and Ryan are both people who they are is just a delight.
And they don't need to add anything to it.
Yeah.
And that's special.
Yeah, they both already start with so much.
Right.
Because of just
you don't
natural.
need to unpeel any layer. They're already there. They're ready to go.
All right, I think I've done enough sucking
No,
Ryan's
no,
dick.
yeah, Ryan
and DJ's dick.
Yeah, well, DJ, there's a couple more sucks in there, but Ryan, you're done. So I go outside, and I was just in awe of what you guys just did. So I just kind of hung out to the corner, and then you come up to me and you go, "Hey man, you got to stop shitting on yourself on stage. That was funny. You had him laughing." And then I go, "Yeah." Wait, and then I was so in awe that you were talking to me, and I was like, "Oh," and then we started talking, and then we found out, and you reminded me of this, and I have a great memory, but I forgot what we talked about because I was such a fan of both of you that you guys talking to me, I couldn't remember what we talked about because I was just in awe that we were having a conversation. So then you said, I worked in radio. We both talked about radio.
Yeah,
it was so much fun.
Yeah.
Talked about, you opening for Dave Coulier back in the day. It was just fun conversations.
Yeah.
And then you right then, this is what you're great at. When you meet somebody at a show, instead of saying like, "Oh, I'll add you on Facebook later," you just grab your phone and go, "Let's add him right now," because it's on your mind. And so you did that. Then I was like, "Man, that guy Mike was so funny." And then I started booking shows in See Me, and I was like, this is a long shot. Mike's been on WTF, he's done a lot of stuff, but whatever. So I just messaged you like in a just whim, not even knowing if you would even read it, let alone respond. And you right away were like, "Yeah, I would love to." And I was like, "Oh my God." Then you were at the show. Yeah, I get to every show early, but you got there before me, and you brought Heather Kozlakowski, one of my favorites too.
Another Detroiter.
Another Detroit
Who's
person.
also
you
super
said,
funny.
"Do you mind if I bring someone?" I'm like, "I would love to." And we meet comedians through comedians, and it is a family. But I met Heather that night, and it's just it's a tough room, but it's a lot of fun. You would bring somebody on stage. There was like office chairs. It was madness. But since then, we've worked together so many times. You've been so kind, and you're a guy that has gone through a lot in life, but you've also been there for me and other people, and it's really incredible.
Well, for a conversation that we were having before all this, we were talking about my rivals, and there's a quality about you too that goes hand in hand with what we were talking about with Ryan and DJ. It's who you are is such an open and warm person where you share stuff about yourself. I remember the first Christmas that we were friends. My heart was breaking for you on Facebook when you were being so open about what you were going through during the holidays, and
I had to go to the inpatient program.
That you did that, and you were being so open about it. And while I appreciate the fact that you felt that I was so open at Ventura Harbor, I in my mind that you sharing that was what made me go like, oh my God, like Casey is just. You're an open book, and I'm so glad that you do this podcast too, because I think a lot of us feel a lot of shame when that darkness or that weight comes on us, and I think it really helps when you're open like that. Like just today, our mutual friend Jolene posted, just kind of going through a rough time on Facebook. Right. And because this city is so hard. And she's a Midwesterner like I am.
She's the best.
And she's so funny.
So nice.
And, and the city is like so hard, and this career is so hard. And following this dream is just so difficult. And it's supposed to be, because if it wasn't, more people would try it.
And more people would think that they can succeed based on what other people did, not knowing how much the other person has gone through.
Right. And I always want to champion people that are so open and vulnerable about, feeling insecure or feeling dark. Right.
And I think at this point, it only helps to be honest. And I've got some shit from people, not a lot, but some. You gotta stop posting this stuff. And then I got more and more. Thank you so much for being honest. You have no idea. Like personal messages. I won't not you repeat the names, but people that you would never expect if you know them, in comedy or not in comedy, to say, hey, like I suffer too. I could never open up. Thank you for doing that. And then I went on a podcast and the guy's like, you gotta stop doing this, man. And at the end of the day, you're entitled to your opinion. I'm not purposely doing it to get attention or likes or any of that. I'm doing it because in that moment it feels right. And sometimes I'm in such a dark place that I don't remember even posting, if that makes sense.
I will say that I think you are selfless to a fault sometimes. Where
that's true.
You are a person that I think very rarely does it seem like... I can't think of one time in the couple of years that I've known you that you've ever put yourself before everyone else, which is just so crazy to me. And to be totally honest with you, it scares me sometimes too, because this is a season that we're coming to right now. We're recording this November 30th, and holidays are brutal and
for everyone.
It's
a stressful time of year, man. It really is. And it's supposed to be about togetherness, but it's something about the holidays. As much as I love Christmas music and movies, and presents for people getting there's a real darkness that comes over my mind during the holidays, which is weird.
I notice with myself that I go through really drastic highs and lows, and I think because the holidays are so festive that any bit of joy that I feel, I know that there's going to be an equal amount of sadness too, and particularly being a transplant right now where my parents are 2,000 miles away and my parents are older,
right?
And I worry every single time that they call that, especially if it's my mom's cell phone, just because they're so much older that I feel like they're only going to use the cell phone if they're in the hospital emergency rooms, and it's going to be my mom saying, hey, your dad's dead, or it's going to be my dad saying, which would be unlikely because I don't think my dad would be able to figure out. I don't know for sure that my dad would know how to call me.
With cell phones,
I know. I feel like the only way I'll when my mom eventually dies, I feel like the only way I'll know is because she hasn't played Scrabble with me on Facebook for a while, and it's so sad. But I just have that feeling of dread.
Yeah,
and it's kind of a new thing for me, and and I'm going to. I think it's important to be really open on this. And when I got divorced, my ex-wife said, because it was my choice to get divorced, my ex-wife said, hey, if you don't want me part of your life anymore, then I reserve the right to not be part of your act or your act anymore. And this isn't about,
that's interesting.
her or, and I, and I've held true to that, quite a bit. And I feel like for whatever reason, post divorce, I've been feeling just like dread around the corner at all times, and I grew up Catholic, and
me too.
I just being a guy who got divorced just beat me up like so much, where I couldn't even figure it out because I wasn't, like, if you look at the Catholic Church as an institution, there are so many people involved with the church who've done far worse things than get divorced. So
that's
I'm
a whole other podcast. I mean,
so I'm like, wow, I feel all this guilt because I didn't do something that 50% of the people who try to do it can't do.
You're just another statistic, and in terms of what you went through is almost now, unfortunately, more common than a successful marriage, whatever that definition is.
Right.
So, I mean,